So while I do use my M4 iPad Pro as my main iPad, as well as my main computer on a day-to-day basis, we have in the house what I like to call the house iPad mini, and I kind of want to talk about that. Let's get into it. So Apple did introduce the new iPad mini 7 late last year, and they added some internal improvements to, again, future-proof yourself a little bit. For instance, they added the A17 Pro chip in there, which is the same chip that's inside the 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max on the iPhone side, so it does support things like Apple Intelligence. From a design standpoint, it didn't change at all compared to the Mini 6. You still have that 8.3 display, it's still a 60Hz display, it's still the same form factor, the same color, the same size, the same weight, but it is nice to know that you are future-proofed at least internally for a little while longer, and it should last you anywhere from 4 to 8 years, depending on how you use your iPad mini. And in this video, what I want to do is talk about how we use the iPad mini, because yes, we have one iPad and we use it as a house iPad mini, and everybody in our household has a different use for the iPad mini. So I kind of want to talk about that and show off just how much you can do on the iPad mini from both a productivity side, from a leisure side, from a distraction side as well. So let's get right into that. So for all intents and purposes, this is my wife's iPad mini. She signed into it with her Apple ID, it's her applications, all of her settings are built in there, so this is her iPad mini, but like I said, myself as well as my daughter has different use cases for this iPad mini, and I still use this on a daily basis. So we're gonna start with how I personally use the iPad mini, which is gonna be on the productivity side more so, and how I use it to make these videos. So the first thing I use the iPad mini for is going to be as a viewfinder and as a controller for my camera. So I have this app called Blackmagic on both my iPhone as well as the iPad mini and pretty much any other iPad that has it, but it allows me to use the iPad mini as a viewfinder, as you can see right here, to be able to control everything that's going on the camera, which is the iPhone right in front of me. So I can start and stop the recording, I can change the frame rate, I can change the exposure, I can do manual focus, autofocus, pretty much all the camera settings that I would need is now fully controllable on here, as well as all the audio. So I have my microphone directly plugged into my iPhone, and I can control what audio I wanted to pick up, whether it's from the microphone on this Shure mic, or the microphone built into the iPhone, or even some other third-party way to get the microphone to be working. So that is my main use from a productivity side. I also use it for research when I am doing some R&D. I also use it for some research whenever I am researching new videos, so that kind of gives you an idea of what it can be used for from a productivity standpoint, and that's just kind of scratching the surface. This is powerful enough to be able to edit in LumaFusion, so if I really wanted to, I could edit all my videos on this iPad mini. For instance, I know that some people even edit their audio-only podcasts on the iPad mini because it's very easy, and it supports something like the Apple Pencil Pro as well as the USB-C Apple Pencil. So that's going to be the first category for this iPad mini 7, which is going to be productivity and how you can use it in conjunction with all your other Apple ecosystem pieces of hardware. But now, a quick word from our sponsor, Paperlike. The Paperlike screen protector was actually the very first accessory I ever bought for my original 2018 iPad Pro. It absolutely changed the way I use my iPad, giving me that real paper feel right on my screen, and it's been almost 7 years and I still make sure that I have one for all of my iPads. I recently got the new iPad mini 7 and I knew I needed to throw a Paperlike screen protector on there because it just adds a whole new dimension with how I engage with the iPad mini. Paperlike's nanodot tech gives you the natural resistance of paper, letting you take neater notes, draw with precision, and even makes the sound of pencil on paper. Combine that with the new haptics of the Pencil Pro, and you have a match made in heaven. It is made for creators and doers. It's perfect for artists, designers, students, or anyone who wants the real paper experience in their digital workflow. And with its microbead tech, Paperlike keeps your screen clear and near glare free, making it as beautiful to look at as it is to write on. Not only do they give you 2 Paperlikes on there just in case you mess up, but they also are so confident in their product that they offer a 100-day satisfaction guarantee. So if you're ready to fall in love with writing on your iPad, give Paperlike a try with the link below, and now back to the iPad mini. Now the second category is going to be just kind of day-to-day stuff, and this is kind of where my wife uses the iPad mini. She uses this in an abundance of different ways. You know, she uses it for simple things like going into Safari and doing a little bit of research on maybe a trip that's coming up, or she'll use the new food section in the Apple News Plus app to get ingredients, or maybe she uses other applications to be able to use this as kind of her ingredient cookbook inside of the kitchen. She uses this as a normal communication machine, so she uses this a ton for FaceTime to be able to do video calls with loved ones and friends and anything that kind of comes into play, whether it is just one-on-one or in group FaceTime calls. She uses this to watch videos as well from time to time, so she uses this in a bunch of different ways when it comes to kind of being productive, but in the household a little bit as well as a bunch of leisure activities when it comes to her playing the games that she has, the applications that she uses. So for her, this iPad mini 7 still acts as a productivity machine, but just in another way, more so in a productivity way inside of the home. She also uses it for directions. She also uses this to manage our daughter's schedule, her schedule, to be able to sign her up for things, do research for different activities that she can do, to kind of just pretty much whenever she could use her iPhone for those tasks, she actually gravitates to the iPad mini 7 when we're at home because it is a larger canvas for her to work on. And then of course you have like the Kindle aspect of it all, so she is a big audiobook as well as a Kindle reader, so she uses this as an ebook essentially, even though of course it's not an e-ink display. But she uses this to listen books on Audible while also following along inside of the Kindle application to be able to kind of read as many books as she wants. So this is what she uses it mainly for. She uses it for house productivity stuff as well as kind of leisure activity when it comes to ebooks and things of that nature. And then of course for our daughter, she also uses the iPad mini for education purposes and for leisure purposes and of course gaming and content consumption. So whenever she does need to get some stuff done, we have an abundance of different applications from an education standpoint. And let me know if you guys want a video kind of covering applications like that for maybe people that do have kids and what the best educational applications to have is, because of course we live in a world where we're trying to limit some screen time, or some people just use the iPad with their kids a lot of the time, so it's better to have them do some educational type of tasks versus just kind of going on YouTube and watching whatever they want to watch. But like I said, there are an abundance of applications that you can use from an education standpoint to kind of learn some early skills, whether it is some arithmetic, some math, some reading, some comprehension, and we have a bunch of those applications that we use with our daughter so she can get some productivity done, but at that level. But then of course, there's also YouTube Kids, there's also a bunch of different games that kind of help from an education standpoint, but also from just a fun standpoint as well, like the Bluey games that they have, and themed games with princesses and stuff like that. So we can get pretty granular in the types of games that can be played on the iPad mini for that kind of age group and age demographic. But again, it's just another way that this iPad mini is used on a daily basis. Another thing that's been very nice alongside the iPad mini is going to be the Apple Pencil Pro. Now when it comes to Apple Pencil support, yes, the iPad mini 7 lost Apple Pencil 2 support, but it gained Apple Pencil Pro support, and it also works with the Apple Pencil USB-C if you do want to go with a cheaper alternative directly from Apple. But I'll also link down below some other non-Apple related Apple Pencil accessories that are anywhere in that like $10 to $30 mark, which gets you about 95% of the experience without actually giving you the entire Apple Pencil for a fraction of the cost. But we do that a lot for practicing handwriting, for doing math notes, especially in the notes application, for jotting down notes, whether it is myself, my wife, or even my daughter. So there's a bunch of different ways you can kind of leverage the Apple Pencil with the iPad mini 7, and in my opinion, having that is a great package because you do have the Smart Folio case with the iPad mini, with the Apple Pencil that can fit in pretty much any bag, any purse, and it even fits in some pockets depending on how big your pockets are, depending on your pants or the jacket pocket. So overall, it still is almost as portable as your iPhone with just a larger display to be able to do a little bit more. But I do want to quickly bring up Apple Intelligence because yes, the biggest selling point of the iPad mini 7 is the fact that it did get the A17 Pro. Now with that comes a bunch of new improvements on a CPU and GPU perspective and being able to do a little bit more, but the main reason they did it is to be able to have future proofing from an Apple Intelligence perspective. And the way that it stands right now we're on 18.3.1 on the iPadOS side on the public side, and 18.4 Beta 2 on the beta side. And the way that it stands currently, I don't really use Apple Intelligence on this device. The day that Siri does get the on-screen awareness and the contextual evidence and being able to use cross-app applications and being able to use all those aspects of having an Apple Intelligence assistant, then maybe yes, I'll be using it a lot more. But for right now, Image Playgrounds is fun to kind of show off and play around with my daughter if you really want to. Genmojis are kind of nice, I guess, depending on the situation that you're in. But for the most part, from a productivity and even a leisure side, really, Apple Intelligence just hasn't really been used on the iPad mini whatsoever. So I did want to bring that to light. And that kind of goes into the segue of price point for this iPad mini 7. From Apple, it is $499, but Amazon always has deals. I saw it as low as $399 from Amazon, and also you can get it from the education store for I believe a $50 discount on Apple's website, so you can get it for $449, and it does come with 128 gigs of built-in storage. But now, if you can find yourself an iPad mini 6, which was the previous generation, and you can find that at a discounted price, like right now I see them on Amazon renewed for $299, I think that's a much better deal because you still get all the main things that you get. You still get USB-C, Touch ID, the 60Hz display, the form factor, the size, the compatibility with Apple Pencil 2, which I think is a plus because that'll be a little bit cheaper, and you still get compatibility across all the Smart Folio cases and things like that. So you end up kind of getting the same exact device, just minus the A17 Pro and minus Apple Intelligence. So if you can find it for $299, I definitely think going with the iPad mini 6 could be the way to go. But then you can also make the argument that the iPad 10th generation can get a lot of the same stuff done at an even cheaper price with a larger display. So I'm going to leave all those links down below to see which one the best price is. But if you definitely want the smallest form factor in an iPad, iPad mini is the way to go. If you want to get a 10.9 inch to 11 inch display at the smallest price point, then the iPad 10th generation or even the 11th generation could be beneficial for you. For instance, Amazon still has a bunch of inventory of the iPad 10th generation, and they're selling it brand new for $259. Now yes, it only comes with 64 gigs of onboard storage, but again, for $260, getting a pretty new iPad that's going to last you for years to come, I think is a great bargain overall. But let me know what you think about the iPad mini, about this video in general. How do you use your iPad mini? Would you upgrade to an iPad mini if you're coming from an older one? Always curious to know, but that's just how I use the iPad mini, from a productivity, from a family side, from a content consumption side, from my daughter's side, from my wife's side. It is the home iPad that we all share and use. Now, the one thing I do hope that Apple at some point gives us, which I doubt, is being able to have multiple profiles on one single iPad. But even the most expensive iPads can't do that, so I'm not gonna hold my breath for the iPad mini 7 to be able to do that, but a man can dream. But that'll do it, everybody. If you did make it to the end, leave a little dolphin in the comments down below so I know you made it to the end. And if you wanna watch more videos like this one, definitely check out one of these videos right here. And until next time, I'm Fernando. Peace, everybody.